We have a good look. We have a good field, all right. None of our candidates is a socialist, like Bernie Sanders, and none of our candidates is under FBI investigation, like Hillary Clinton. But I want you to vote for me, and I'm asking you for your vote because we can't afford to lose this election. This election cannot be about making a point. It has to be about making a difference. And here's why it's so important, because this election, if the other side wins, I want you to imagine what America is going to look like for the next 4 years if the other side wins. If Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders wins, Obamacare becomes permanent. If Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders wins, all of these unconstitutional executive orders, they stay in place. If they win, the gutting of our military continues. If they win, the betrayal of our allies like Israel continues. So they can't win. We have to win. Now, in years past, when a Republican comes to you and says, vote for me because I can win, here's what they were really saying oftentimes. Vote for me because I'm not as conservative as the other people, as if somehow being a conservative means you can't win. Nothing is further from the truth. I am as conservative as anyone running in this race, and I've got a 15-year record of public service to prove it. Now, I wasn't a full-time political figure, but I was a state legislator in Florida. It's a part-time job. And in my 8.5 years there, including my 2 years as speaker, we didn't just talk about conservative ideas. We turned conservative idea into action. I didn't become a conservative 2 years ago when I thought maybe I'm going to run for president as a Republican. So let me start talking like a conservative. When I was in the Florida legislature, we dealt with eminent domain abuse. Now, I'm not saying this ever happens. Just theoretically. Let's say a private developer tried to take your property away to build a hotel. Just theoretically. Just theoretically. You can't do that in Florida. You know why you can't do that in Florida? Because I passed a law, one of the strongest laws in the country, that says you cannot take private property away to give it to a company so they can use it for their own gain. When I was the Speaker of the Florida House, not only did we balance our budget without raising taxes, we cut property taxes in Florida. When I was Speaker of the Florida House, we added vocational training back into our schools because this country needs more welders and plumbers and pipe fitters. When I was Speaker of the House, we reformed our curriculum, and we didn't use Common Core, and we didn't need the federal government. We did it at the state level where it belongs. And now in the U.S. Senate, I'm proud of the work I've done there as well. Today, you can fire an executive at the VA who isn't doing a good job because I passed a law that gave us the power to fire people that aren't doing their job. And as a senator, I led the effort, and we imposed additional sanctions against Hezbollah, a pro-Iranian terrorist group that targets Israel. This year they will have less money than before because I led the effort and we passed the law and imposed sanctions on them. And I led the effort. And we got rid of the Obamacare bailout fund. They were going to use your money to bail out private insurance companies. And we got rid of the bailout fund. And when I'm president, we will get rid of the rest of Obamacare. And we were able to achieve all of those things despite the fact that at the time, the person running the Senate, who happens to be from Nevada, I don't hold it against you. Hey, don't worry, this year you're getting rid of them and you're going to upgrade. Anyway, as you can tell, I'm pretty happy about that too. Not as much as you are, as I always said. All right, good. See, there's a new day ahead. And there's a better days ahead for America, and better days ahead for Nevada, and better days ahead for the U.S. Senate. But I got to tell you that we have to make the right decision in this election. Now, I'm as conservative as anyone in this race. I go on the website of any group that ranks conservatives, and you will see my name right at the top of the list. But I'm a conservative that can unite this party. We can't win if we're divided. And there are still people in this race that if they become the nominee, half this party will check out. Half this party won't vote. They'll stay home. And we can't win if that happens. If we're still fighting against each other in September and in October, we are going to lose. We cannot lose. I will unite this party, and I'll do more than that. I will work every day to grow it. And that means to go to people that don't vote for us now and convince them that what we stand for is better for them and better for America than what the other side is offering. And I know I can make that argument. You know why I know I can make that argument? Because we're going to take that argument to people who live the way I grew up. I grew up paycheck to paycheck. I lived paycheck to paycheck. I know I can take our message to people and I can say to them, look, I come from where you come from. I've lived the way you live. I have faced what you are facing now. And I'm a conservative, and you should be a conservative. Because what we stand for is better for you, it was better for me, and it's better for America than big government. We can take our message to younger Americans. One of the things I'm proudest of, when I do my rallies around the country, we have a lot of young people that come. And one of the reasons why is because I am the only Republican that time and again talks about one of the major things facing young Americans, student loan debt. It's crazy. A 500% increase in student loan debt in this country, oftentimes for degrees that don't even lead to a job. I had a student loan. 3 years ago, I still had a student loan. I've never met her, but I paid Sally Mae a lot of money. I'm the only one running as a Republican that has a plan to deal with it and that talks about it. We're going to take our message to working families, to people raising children. Because Jeanette and I are raising our 4 children in the 21st century. And it's gotten harder than ever to instill the values that they teach in our church in them. Because we have to compete with the values that they try to ram down our throat in the popular culture. We will unite this party and we will grow it, and then we will win this election. And by the way, we're not just going to win Nevada, we're going to win Nevada big in the general election. And by big, I mean anything more than 1 point. That's enough. After having lost it twice in a row, we're going to grow it. We're going to grow this party, we're going to win. And then we have a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do. Because the damage that Barack Obama has done to America is extensive. If you elect me president for the first time in 8 years, you're going to have a president that actually follows the Constitution of the United States of America. On my very first day in office, I will immediately repeal every single one of Barack Obama's unconstitutional executive orders. When I'm President of the United States for the first time in 8 years, you will have a president that fights and protects your First Amendment right to live out the teachings of your faith in every aspect of your life without being prosecuted or persecuted. When I'm President of the United States for the first time in 8 years, you will have a president that defends your Second Amendment right to protect your family and your property. By the way, Barack Obama acts like the Second Amendment was a suggestion. It is not a suggestion. It is a constitutional right, and we are going to protect it. When I'm President of the United States for the first time in a long time, you're going to have a president that understands the federal government is a limited government. There is not supposed to be a federal solution to every problem in America. There are a lot of problems that don't even have a government solution. As a country, we need to start taking responsibility for ourselves, for our children, for our communities, for our families. This is not about laws, it's about values. And you can't teach values through government. They have to be taught in strong families, living in strong communities, backed up by strong churches and synagogues. You'll have a president that understands that what happens in your house is often more important than what happens in the White House. And you'll have a president that understands that if it does have a government solution, it's more often than not a state government solution or a local government solution. We will follow the 10th Amendment when I'm President of the United States. And you'll have a president that believes, for the first time in a long time, that the federal government should not own over 80% of the land in the state of Nevada. Because here's the truth. We don't need that much. We only need a few acres in order to store the UFO alien bodies. That's a joke. That's a joke. They're not in Nevada. They're in Utah. I always say that because Jason Chapin is here. Yes, so we'll get to Social Security in a moment. We are going to have a limited government that's limited, and it's in its proper role. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to re-embrace free enterprise. Free enterprise works. We have 200 years of history to prove it. And I say this to you as the son of a bartender and a maid who never made a lot of money, but they had a job because free enterprise works. We need to reinvigorate free enterprise. And that means making America the easiest and the best place in the world to create the best paying jobs. The easiest and best place in the world to start a business. The easiest and best place in the world to grow a business. That's why I have a tax plan that will make us competitive again. That's why we're going to have a regulatory budget that rolls back regulations. That's why we're going to deal with our national debt. To deal with the national debt, we will have to save Social Security and Medicare. And let me tell you, you may not know this. This is not well known. But there are a lot of people in Florida on Social Security and Medicare. My mother is one of them. She's 85 years old. And she depends on Social Security and Medicare. I am against any changes to those programs that are bad for my mother. And I have good news for you. I have good news for you. We can save Social Security and Medicare and help balance our budget, and we don't have to change it for her or people like her, or people about to retire. But the truth is, it's going to have to look a little different for people like me. Nothing dramatic. I'm supposed to retire at 67 right now. Maybe I have to retire at 67 and a half or 68. You know what? If I was still in the Senate, I'd be one of the youngest people there. If I've made millions of dollars, my Social Security check may not grow as fast as it grows for someone who made less money. Medicare could be the option of taking my money and getting a private plan that I like better. Medicare Advantage provides that now for many people. My point is, those are not unreasonable changes to ask of someone like me, who's 28 years away from retirement, in exchange for leaving it the way it is, without disrupting it for people that are on it now, and beginning to bring our debt under control. If we do that, we can save these important programs, which I believe in with all my heart, because without them, my parents would have had a difficult life. And by the way, we shouldn't keep acting like these programs are doing anyone a favor. You earned that. They took the money out of your check. We will keep that promise. We will keep that promise, but we will ask from younger Americans like myself a few changes. And after everything my parents did for me, I personally am willing to make those changes in order to ensure we can balance our budget and not disrupt the lives of our seniors or people who are about to retire. We are going to, when I'm President of the United States, we're going to fully utilize all of our energy resources. We have been blessed as a country with energy resources, and we will responsibly but fully utilize them so we can rebuild our economy. And we will rebuild our economy by repealing and replacing Obamacare once and for all. The third thing we're going to do is we are going to rebuild the U.S. military. We are going to have a national security again in this country. The current President of the United States is a weak and terrible commander-in-chief. The world has grown more dangerous under his watch. A lunatic in North Korea has nuclear weapons and a long-range rocket that can reach us. The Chinese take over the South China Sea. Vladimir Putin makes fun of him as he sows instability in Europe and the Middle East. Iran's getting $100 billion because of Barack Obama's deal. And they're not going to build orphanages with that money. They're going to build up their military. They're going to sponsor terrorism. And one day they're going to buy or build a nuclear weapon to hold us hostage. And radical Islamic jihadists are spreading all over the world, including ISIS, that has affiliates in over a dozen countries. And in the face of all this, you know what Barack Obama's done? He's going to leave us with the smallest army since the end of World War II, with the smallest Navy in 100 years, with the smallest Air Force in our history. When I'm President of the United States, we will undertake a Reagan-style rebuilding of the United States military. We're going to have a real war on terror when I'm president. Not this fake war. A real war on Islamic jihadist terror. Which means the best intelligence agencies in the world will find the terrorists. The best military in the world will destroy them. And if we capture them alive, they're not going to have the right to remain silent. They're not going to a court hearing in Manhattan. They're not being relocated to the state of Nevada. They're going to Guantanamo. When I'm president of the United States, we are going to be good to our allies again, especially Israel. They are the only pro-American, free enterprise democracy in the entire Middle East. And this president treats Bibi Netanyahu with less respect than what he gives the Ayatollah in Iran. That changes on my first day in office. Because on my first day in office, I will cancel Barack Obama's deal with Iran. When I'm president, we're going to take care of our veterans again. If you're a veteran or your family member serving us in the armed forces, would you raise your hand so we can thank you? We thank you for that. We thank you for you. We do not take care of our veterans anymore. It's immoral. The other day I saw a headline. USA Today, last week, top of the fold. Calls to VA suicide hotline went to voicemail. You think they're going to fire anyone over that? They're not. There's no accountability. Look, in my office, 1 out of 4 calls to my Senate offices are a veteran trying to navigate the VA system. One of them is my brother. He was a 7th Special Forces Green Beret from 1968 through 1971. As a Green Beret, one day he jumped out of an airplane, he didn't land well, knocked out his front teeth. And so every few years he has to have a dental claim at the VA, and they always give him a hard time. They say, how do we know this happened in the Army? And he says, it's the only time I jumped out of a plane. It's immoral. That's why when I'm President of the United States, veterans will be able to take their VA benefits to any hospital or any doctor that they want to go to. And by the way, a lot of our veterans don't stop serving when they come home. You go to any fire station in America, you go to any police department in this country, I promise you, you will run into veterans who are still serving us. And yet I have to read in the press all the time about how all the police officers are doing this or that wrong. Let me tell you something. If tonight something were to go wrong in our lives, we're calling 911 and they're showing up at our house or wherever we are and they're going to keep us safe. I thank God for our firefighters, for our police officers, and for their families. As you can see, we have a lot of work to do. There's other things we need to cover. I can't get to them all. We have so much damage to undo. But we're going to do it. Because this is what Americans have always done for their children. We have always done whatever it takes to leave our kids better off than ourselves. And I believe we will do it again. But first we have to win this election. We can't lose it. The stakes are too high. This is not just a choice between political parties. What we are deciding right now in this election is our identity. What kind of country will America be in the 21st century? I know what kind of America is. I know it personally. It's what motivates me to run. And I'll close with this because I know you have a choice to make. The other people running love America too. So I'm not here to bash them. I'm here to tell you who I am and what it is that gets me going in the morning, what it is that I'm running for. You know, I'm reminded of this a lot. For about 15 days on the campaign trail, my kids were able to travel with me. We had to send them back home because they got to go to school, you know. But they joined me this weekend again. And during that 15-day period, good days, bad days, every morning, by seeing them, even if they were still asleep, I was reminded of what was at stake. I was reminded that what we are deciding is, what is America going to look like when my 15-year-old daughter graduates college? What kind of America will it be when my 13-year-old daughter gets married? What kind of country will we have when my 10-year-old son buys his first home? Or when my 8-year-old son starts his first business? We are deciding that right now. I can tell you who we've been for over 200 years. The greatest nation in the history of mankind. And I know this because I was raised by people who didn't come from here. And when the people who are raising you know what life is like outside of America, every single day you are reminded of how special this nation truly is. My parents were born on the island of Cuba to poor families with no access to power, no money, no connections. They both had it hard. But my father had it especially hard. When he was 4 days shy of his 9th birthday, his mother died. And so in order for him to eat, he had to leave school and start working with his father in the streets of Havana. My father never went back to school, and he would have worked for the next 70 years of his life. My parents came here in 1956. They were a young married couple with a 6-year-old son, my older brother. And life was hard. They didn't know any English. The first words my father learned in English were, "I'm looking for work," or "I'm looking for a job." They didn't have any skills. They had no education. They didn't know anyone, had no money. And their first years here were not easy. They were hard. My parents years later admitted to me that when their first couple of years here, they were discouraged. To the point where they even thought about going back to Cuba. They thought they had made a mistake. Boy, am I glad they didn't go back to Cuba. I may never have been born. That's the truth. My parents had me in their 40s. That's very optimistic. I had my sister after that. My parents had it hard, but they persevered. Here's how amazing America is. Less than 10 years after my parents came here, as poorly educated immigrants from another country, obviously, working as a bartender on Miami Beach, my father and mother bought their first home. They bought their first home in a safe and stable neighborhood. They never became rich or famous, but my parents were very successful people. They never made a lot of money, but they were very successful because they were able to retire with dignity and with security. And the most important thing of all for them, my parents were able to leave all 4 of their children better off than themselves. Now, why do I share that story with you? Because it's not just my story. That is your story. Now, your parents may not have come from another country. Your grandparents may not have come from another country. And I don't know your personal story, but I know you're Americans. And I know that here in America, we are all, every single one of us, just a generation or 2 removed from someone who did for you what my parents did for me. It's what your parents did for your parents. It's your father that worked 2 jobs so you could have the future he never had. It's the sacrifices your mother made so the opportunities that were denied to her would be available to you. Or maybe it's what you're doing for your children now. Maybe you're the one working the 2 jobs. Maybe you're the one that's working 18 hours a day. Maybe you're the one that's put aside your own hopes and dreams so that your kids could be all the things you wanted to be for yourself. I know that in this country we are all come from someone who made our future the purpose of their lives. And that is what makes us different. We celebrate success in this country. We celebrate the fact that in this nation, people who come from nothing have been able to make a lot of money and they're very successful. We hold that up. We're inspired by financial success. We don't criticize it and we don't demonize it.